They believed the night belonged to them. For decades, Imperial Japanese naval doctrine had trained officers to fight in darkness, to strike with precision torpedoes and vanish before dawn. Radar, they thought, was a mechanical gimmick, unreliable, unnecessary, inferior to disciplined eyes and instinct. But in the black waters off Guadalcanal, night itself would turn against them. In 1942, the Imperial Japanese Navy was widely regarded as one of the most formidable maritime forces on Earth. Its officers were elite, its crews highly trained, and its Type 93 long-lance torpedoes were unmatched in range and lethality. Night combat was not merely a tactic, it was a philosophy. Japanese destroyer squadrons drilled endlessly in coordinated maneuvers under cover of darkness. Spotters were trained to detect silhouettes against faint starlight. Torpedo spreads were calculated with mathematical confidence. Victory, they believed, would come silently and suddenly after sunset. When American forces landed on Guadalcanal in August 1942, seizing an unfinished airstrip later named Henderson Field, Japan moved swiftly to respond. The island, part of the Solomon chain, was strategically vital. Control of Guadalcanal threatened Japanese supply lines and expansion in the South Pacific. Tokyo could not allow it to fall permanently into Allied hands. The response was immediate. Reinforcements, warships, and nightly naval bombardments designed to smash the fragile American foothold. These resupply and bombardment missions became known as the Tokyo Express. Japanese destroyers would race down the slot, the narrow sea corridor between the Solomon Islands, under cover of darkness. They moved fast and light, carrying troops and supplies, relying on speed and night superiority to evade American air power based at Henderson Field. During daylight, American aircraft controlled the skies. At night, the Japanese believed they controlled the sea. Early clashes seemed to validate their confidence. In the chaotic Battle of Savo Island in August 1942, a Japanese cruiser force under Vice Admiral Gunichi Mikawa surprised Allied ships in darkness and inflicted devastating losses. 4 Allied heavy cruisers were sunk in a matter of minutes. The Americans were stunned. Searchlights cut through darkness too late. Shell fire erupted from unseen directions. It was a brutal demonstration of Japanese night doctrine at its peak. Yet, beneath these tactical victories, an invisible shift was underway. The United States Navy was deploying a technology that would quietly rewrite the rules of naval warfare: radar. Early American radar sets were crude by modern standards, with bulky screens and limited resolution. But they possessed one revolutionary advantage. They could detect ships beyond visual range, regardless of darkness or weather. To officers trained in optical spotting and flare illumination, radar seemed almost unnatural. Many Japanese commanders underestimated its potential. Reports of American radar were known, but confidence in traditional night fighting skills remained dominant. Optical rangefinders, disciplined formations, and long-lance torpedoes had delivered victory before. Why should a flickering screen replace the trained human eye? In some cases, radar was viewed as an aid, perhaps useful but not decisive. Few grasped how fundamentally it would alter night engagements. As fighting around Guadalcanal intensified, American forces began integrating radar-equipped destroyers into their task forces. These ships could track incoming contacts long before they were visible. Plotting rooms grew tense as blips appeared on glowing scopes. Bearings were calculated quietly. Orders were issued without searchlights or flares. For the first time, American captains could prepare for battle before the first flash of enemy gunfire. The waters around Guadalcanal became known as Ironbottom Sound, a graveyard of ships from both sides. Day after day, aircraft from Henderson Field attacked Japanese reinforcements. Night after night, Japanese destroyers and cruisers returned, determined to neutralize the airfield. Each encounter layered chaos upon chaos. torpedoes streaking invisibly through black water, shells exploding in brilliant flashes, silhouettes darting between islands. In October and November 1942, the stakes escalated dramatically. Japan committed heavier forces, including battleships, in an effort to bombard Henderson Field into submission. If the airstrip could be destroyed, American air power would be crippled and control of the sea lanes restored. It was a desperate gamble, and once again Japanese planners assumed that night would shield their approach. But American radar operators were no novices. Training improved rapidly under combat conditions. Officers learned to trust the green sweep of the scope. Contacts were identified, courses predicted, ambushes prepared. The technology did not eliminate confusion. Friendly fire incidents and miscommunications still occurred, but it provided something revolutionary: foreknowledge. On the night of November 12–13, 1942, a powerful Japanese bombardment force approached Guadalcanal under Vice Admiral Hiroaki Abe. His mission was clear: shell Henderson Field into rubble. American ships, including cruisers and destroyers under Rear Admiral Daniel J. Callahan, moved to intercept. The resulting clash would become one of the most chaotic naval battles in history. In pitch darkness and heavy rain squalls, radar contacts appeared on American screens before visual confirmation was possible. Orders were shouted across bridges, guns were trained on unseen targets. At close range, the two fleets collided in a swirling melee of searchlights, gunfire, and torpedo wakes. Battleships loomed suddenly out of darkness. Destroyers fired at point-blank range. Explosions illuminated shattered masts and burning decks. The fighting was brutal and confused. Both sides suffered heavy losses. American radar advantage was not yet perfectly coordinated. Command confusion limited its full potential. Yet something crucial had shifted. Japanese ships, expecting to achieve surprise, instead found themselves detected earlier than anticipated. Their assumption of uncontested darkness was eroding. 2 nights later, another confrontation unfolded. This time, American forces under Rear Admiral Willis A. Lee, commanding Task Force 64, relied heavily on radar to position his battleships USS Washington and USS South Dakota. As Japanese battleship Kirishima advanced, confident in night doctrine, American radar tracked her movements with chilling precision. Without relying on searchlights, Washington opened fire guided largely by radar solutions. Shells struck Kirishima with devastating accuracy. Within minutes, the Japanese battleship was crippled. For Japanese commanders, this was not merely a tactical setback, it was a psychological rupture. The belief that superior night training guaranteed dominance was being challenged by invisible waves pulsing from rotating antennas. The night was no longer opaque, it was permeable. Guadalcanal became a laboratory of adaptation. The Japanese Navy continued to fight fiercely, and its crews remained courageous and disciplined, but each engagement revealed a growing imbalance in detection and coordination. Radar allowed American ships to avoid some torpedo spreads, to concentrate fire more effectively, and to anticipate maneuvers that once would have come as deadly surprise. The realization did not arrive all at once. It emerged gradually through reports, losses, and uneasy observations. Ships that should have achieved surprise instead were engaged quickly. Torpedo attacks met prepared gunfire. Commanders began questioning assumptions that seemed unshakable only months before. In the suffocating darkness of Ironbottom Sound, technology was rewriting doctrine. Human vision, however trained, could not compete with electromagnetic detection sweeping silently across the waves. Japanese commanders who dismissed radar as gimmickry were confronting its implications in burning steel and shattered hulls. The night, once their greatest ally, was changing character, and as Guadalcanal's waters filled with wreckage, it became clear that mastery of darkness no longer belonged solely to those who trusted their eyes.